that's a good question. I mean, that is a really good question because it is very germane, I think, to the process, actually. And speaking as a reader, everything I do really is based on how I feel as a reader. Everything comes from having read first. And all writers are huge readers. You know, we write a book a year or sometimes 2 books a year, but we read hundreds of books. So we're much more of readers than writers. And you learn a lot by reading. And one of the things you learn about reading series is that it is absolutely fatal to get too close to your character or to fall in love with your character. There are many series just ruined like that, going all the way back to, let's say, Dorothy Sayers with the Peter Wimsey books. Have you read those books? They started out really, really good. That was a great series at the beginning. But then clearly along the way, at some point, Dorothy Sayers fell in love with her creation. She fell in love with Peter Wimsey. And the later books are so sugary that you could get diabetes just by looking at them. She totally lost it. They're awful, the later ones. Well, think about Thomas Harris. You know, like I said, Silence of the Lambs that I got right here. Silence of the Lambs is a great book, and the one before it, Red Dragon, possibly even better book. Just terrific. But then there was a 9-year gap, and then the next one came along. I can't even remember what it was called. But the next one came along. And the great thing about Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon was that, apart from the fact that Hannibal Lecter was a cannibal, you know, if we buy into that, let's agree he's a cannibal. Apart from that, he's a thoroughly, thoroughly convincing character. He is well drawn. He's a provincial psychiatrist who is on the board of the local symphony, and he does all those kind of worthy middle-class provincial things in Baltimore. And extremely well-drawn character. But then 9 years later, he pops up again, and he's the world's biggest expert in everything. He knows more about Renaissance Italian than the Italians. He's the world's biggest wine expert. He's a psychiatrist, which in America means you do have a medical degree, but he probably got this medical degree 25, 30 years ago, and yet he can do brain surgery on living patients. You know, it was just bullshit by that point. And Thomas Harris had fallen in love with the creation, and the series was ruined. So you've got to be very clear that you don't get too close to your character. So, you know, I don't think about Reacher at all. When I finish the book, off he goes, he's somewhere else. And while I'm writing the book, I make sure I like him less than you're going to like him. That's why you like him, because I don't really like him. I present him warts and all, with all his faults and flaws. If I started to care about him, I would think, well, maybe I should make him wash more often. Maybe I should, you know, make him not cheat and lie and steal and all the things that he does. But no, I've got to keep him honest. So I take a dimmer view of him than I hope you will. And that's the only way to keep him legitimate.